Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are after market close on Wednesday, January 5th. We're going to take a look at Skillz. Now, I happen to be covering Skillz today because it was a request. It just happens to also be the day that the market just absolutely tanked this afternoon. And of course, companies like Skillz taking a big brunt of that, not only because they're in a relatively long-term downtrend, but because they're, in a more disruptive growth sector, and that's definitely where folks in large, like en masse, are most likely to just yank their money and say, this risk is not worth it. Like if being in the stock market, period, is going to be risky, I don't want to amplify that by being in additionally risky stocks that feel like I don't exactly know what's going to happen with them. Now, I just cleared the chart here because I wanted to do this from scratch. I haven't done a chart from scratch in a video in a while, so apologies if this is a bit slow. You can just change the speed to 1.5 or 2x on YouTube. Sometimes folks ask where trend lines and support and resistance levels are coming from, and so on and so forth. So me doing it from scratch allows me to kind of reconstruct that and for folks to kind of pick up on some of the ways that charting happens. So first thing I look for here is, obviously we're in a long-term downtrend, and 624, which is our low point today, is the lowest point that I see on this chart. So I don't have previous price action to draw from. So what I do is scroll left and see when it was last in the 624 region, and it wasn't. So 983 is the other low point here. So I don't have really anything to go off of, but what I can do while I'm here is try to pull out a strong zone that encompasses repetitive support and resistance. So you see here, if I put 1059 in, this price action was repeatedly treating that level as resistance, and then it flipped it, confirmed it, tried to run up, confirmed it again, sort of consolidated along it, tried to run up, confirmed it again, tried to run up, confirmed it again, and then really lifted off. So a lot of support at that level. So I would pull that one in. You see that holds true here and here and here. And then recently, it tried to make a run up there. I mean, recently, it was beginning of December, tried to make a run up to that level and then was drawn down. So being that this level is right here as well, I draw that in. That makes a lot of sense, right? This was support after a pretty strong back-to-back series of red days, and then it tried to bounce there, and then it tried to catch here again, flipped it, and immediately turned it to resistance, right? That's always the key. The more that a level encompasses both support and resistance, the more likely it is to be a strong level the next time the price encounters it. So meaning that the next time Skillz tries to make a run at $8, aka $7.99, it's probably going to hit some pretty hard resistance. And in that case, what you look for is maybe it doesn't make it on its first attempt, but maybe it can either consolidate around that range or bounce off a little bit, kind of regroup, and then make a second run at it and get itself through there. Then the advantage is $7.99 becomes strong support, right? So if an area is strong resistance, yes, that is unfortunate for the bulls in the short term, but once it's overcome and it flips it from resistance to support, then it's equally as strong a support level. So those are, to me, the two important levels for the time being. There's also some consolidation around this level. I mean, we could put in 697, but there will probably be sort of more important levels that evolve over time, but we could put this in, kind of for the time being. This is maybe just, psychologically speaking, it's probably just $7, right? Is the thing. $7.99 is probably just $8. This 1059 is probably just sort of like 1050. And they aren't round numbers just because they're round numbers. I think there's just this psychological component to folks in the market being do I want to breach this level with this stock, or do I want to take profit at this level, or do I want to cut losses at this level, what have you. Now, that's those are the support and resistance levels that I look at. Now, if I pull in and look for some trend lines, obviously there's one here. If I take this top and this top. Now it was able to break through this one. Okay, so I'm not worried about that one anymore. But unfortunately, when it tried to make that break, it's now just coming back down. Sort of the same outcome is still happening, right? But it's essentially caught. We could place this one here to here, say, and say that this is our downtrend resistance that we would look for Skillz to try to break at any point, right? And break it, whether it consolidates its way out of it and just gets some distance from it. What you don't want to see is that it consolidates its way out of it and then just comes back down and starts following it back down again, even though it's outside of the resistance level. You want to see it getting some distance from that level, and that's where these support and resistance levels come into play. Can it hold above can it hold above $7 and work itself out, or what have you? That's just as an example. So to me, that's the first thing that I look for. Can it break this downtrend resistance? Now there's also an additional downtrend, like there's a closer in downtrend resistance here, right? That's attempted and confirmed several times. So depending on how kind of cluttered, if that's the right terminology, you would want your chart to be, because cluttered can also just mean that you have more data points. But for me, I want to have data points that are useful, but I don't want it so cluttered that it kind of makes everything not as useful, because it's just so hard to look at. So I'm always trying to kind of like walk a line between those things. Now those are sort of the bull levels. Now the bear levels, in other words, what I look for if you're kind of saying, okay, is this going to turn down further? It kind of, sorry to say this today, but it kind of did that today, right? Because you had these low lows that it was making here. And then today it fell through and even closed, the price action closed below this level. So I think at this point, it's a bit up for grabs on exactly where the low lows are headed, unless it can, like I said, work itself out from underneath one of these downtrend resistance levels. Now we pull in some indicators here. Obviously it's situated well below the EMAs, and this is the 180 MA. And that's obviously situated well above, and that's just because the price action has been selling off since the summer. And so that's just the case. And this is where like indicators just don't become that useful, because everything is just showing you like, oh, okay, it's in a downtrend. It's like, yes, that's obvious, but where are potential catch zones? I think there may be an opportunity to put in a level here. Let's see what this yields. It would be super helpful to have some guide marker to the downside. I mean, that's pretty far down. This is in like the 4s, right? But this is one that potentially could be there. Let's see if it's gonna be even worse. Yeah, I mean, it's there's not a lot to go off of down here on the downside of things. But what you could look for, if it is going to try to get some motion back, because we're on the daily chart, let me pull in the 5 EMA here. We just flip that one on. That's the blue one here. Now you can see that it hasn't been able to get supports. Let me just hide these others so you can see just the 5. So it hasn't been able to get support over this 5 in several days, right? It tried here, but really since then it's just been kind of wrestling with it. And when it did get support, it tried and it just started to establish this downtrend resistance. So what I would look for any type of like reversal movement on this would be for it to get support over the 5 EMA. And then I'd look to see where the nearest downtrend resistance is and see if it can get itself over that, or even over the nearest resistance level in blue. And the other thing that I would potentially do then, if it is able to get some support over the 5, is then bring in the 12 and say, okay, if it can get support over the 5, what's it going to do with the 12? Right? Because you see here, like this was the best, possible opportunity for it to get some motion going, but it just wasn't able to, because it had the 12, and then let's see if it died down at the 34. would be my question. Yeah, so it hit right at the 34 and then rejected off. So what I look for with a true longer-term reversal is that it secures support over that 34. That 34 I consider to be sort of like a pivot point usually. None of these are 100% of the time, right? But it's an indicator that I look for. If it's in a downtrend, when it rises up to the 34 EMA, does it reject off of it? If so, you're probably looking at it continuing the downtrend. If it flips it and gets support over the 34, then you're in this sort of like, is it gonna, is it not gonna kind of situation. Then I bring in the 50 and I look at the 50 EMA to see, okay, are we gonna get movement over there? Because that is then, you know, the best opportunity for a reversal. But you know, like I said, these are all just kind of ways to try to decipher the price action. Nothing is a crystal ball. Nothing is a guarantee. And, you know, we're all just trying to sort of take better than chance guesses by using the information that we have available to us at any given point in time. But, you know, this is what I would look at for Skillz for the time being. And I'm sorry it's not better news for the bears. I'm sure that this has yielded a lot of folks who are, you know, feeling like just really rough bag holder status at the moment. And, you know, if you didn't hit the eject button near into where you entered, you know, the stock, it can be really, really painful. I've definitely been there and understand that. But I guess, you know, figure out what makes the most sense for you, what risk you're willing to take on. If you're just like, you know, not going to do anything else with the capital anyway, you know, I don't know. It's up to you, of course. But these are sort of the trend lines and the potential support and resistance levels that I would look at if it's able to start to try to reverse course or consolidate and build a base and reverse course anytime in the near future. All right, folks, this is a tough one, but I hope that this was somewhat helpful, and sorry it was much, much longer because I recreated the chart from scratch. But in any case, I certainly appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.